Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs. I am back today finishing a list I started a couple weeks ago about ranking every single MCU film from worst to best. Today we'll be going through entries 11 to 1. We will see which films are the best of the best, and we will see what the best film is in the MCU. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. So if you remember from the previous video, if you watched it, if not, I'll leave a little card up here. Go on and click that if you haven't watched it yet. But I organized all these films into tiers. We had bad, average, above average, and today we'll be getting to tier 2 good and tier 1 great for those peak films. I know I already said without further ado, but I'm a filthy liar. So now, without further ado, let's jump right on into the list. Tier 2 good. Kicking off this half of the list, we have the original Ant-Man. I like Ant-Man. It's a pretty good movie. It's funny, it's charming, it's got some nice action sequences, creative action sequences, namely at the one at the end in the kids' room where they're on the train set and they go small and they're just trying to avoid the toy train. It's innovative, creative, dynamic action, and no other MCU film has action quite like this. You have Paul Rudd, who's charming and hilarious and just a joy to watch. Every scene Michael Pena is in is a riot. He's just such a funny actor. He's a versatile actor too. He can play dramatic roles, but he does not play a dramatic role in this film. He's very much so the comedic relief, and he does a phenomenal job. He knocks it out of the park. Evangeline Lilly does a great job in this film as well, of Lost fame. And she doesn't really get her dues until Ant-Man and the Wasp, when she kind of gets to become the Wasp, but she plays a nice role in here, kind of a nice foil to Scott Lang. And Ant-Man does a good job setting up this character that can come to fruition in the sequel. Finally, you've got Michael Douglas, who's, ageless wonder. He's a great actor, all-time great. Little known fact, his dad, Kirk Douglas, is still alive. He's, I believe, over 100. It's crazy. He starred in Spartacus, which came out in 1960, and he's still kicking. Long live the Douglases. Kicking off the top 10, we have Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, when I first saw this film, I wasn't as high on it as most people. I thought it was a little disappointing, actually. I definitely liked the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies better, at least the first two, and I just felt something was off about this movie. I don't really like teenager movies in general, and this was very much so a teenager movie, but after watching it, a couple times over again and reflecting on it, I couldn't justify putting any of the previous films ahead of this one. So here it is on the top 10 of my list. And here's why. Tom Holland is so charismatic, and I think he'll grow into an even better character as the MCU progresses. The relationship between Tony Stark and Peter Parker is one of the best that we see in the MCU. I'm kind of sad that we don't get to see more of it going forward, but what we got was amazing. It was well done. It was perfect. Loved it. Furthermore, we have Michael Keaton, who plays the Vulture, and a rare good villain in a Marvel film. I think that the Vulture's very relatable. He's not evil for the sake of being evil. He doesn't have some kind of evil master plan. He's just a guy trying to make ends meet for his family. And, rightfully so. He kind of does get screwed over by Tony Stark's company for the cleanup of the Battle for New York. And, you know what? More power to him. I hope we see him again. Overall, it's a solid film, and I think it's a good first film in a series. Definitely not a perfect film by any means, but it's a lot of fun. Just like every film on this list is a lot of fun. I think this is especially true of this film. It's not a real intellectual film, and it doesn't really set too much up going forward aside from the Peter Parker, Tony Stark, father-son kind of relationship sort of deal. But it's just a fun entry, and it's a youthful movie. And that's all it strives to be. So it's good when a movie accomplishes what it sets out to be. And this film absolutely did that. Next on the list at number 9, we have the original Avengers. Now, when this movie came out, it was the thing to go see in theaters. I don't think I'd ever experienced such a huge film in theaters, and it didn't disappoint. Joss Whedon was able to weave all these characters together, pit them against one another, have them work together. They each had their own little subplots for the most part. It was a lot of fun. And it was amazing to see all these characters finally come together. After years on the comic book pages, and after years of being on the big screen, we finally get to see them all on the screen at once, and it was something. I think my only gripes with this film are that while Loki is a great villain, I think this film is kind of one of his weaker showings. He doesn't present too big of a challenge to the Avengers, and they're able to overcome the Chitauri pretty easily. aside from Iron Man almost dying, but I can forgive that. It's still a great movie. It's still a lot of fun to watch, and it's still just a wonder to see all these characters on the screen for the first time ever. So, for what it had to do, the Avengers succeeded. Props to Joss Whedon and props to Kevin Feige for finally bringing all these characters together. And what we got going forward turned out to be even better. So, for this, I'm very thankful to this movie. I'll always have fond memories of watching this film in theaters. So, yeah, number 9 on our list. Tier 1. Great. And at number 8 on the list is Black Panther. Let's get some of the bad out of the way first. I think the biggest problem with this film is the CGI. I think it's definitely some of the worst CGI we've seen for this time period in the MCU. The fight between Black Panther and Eric Killmonger is not very good looking. You can very much tell that these are two guys in CGI suits, and it looks pretty gross. So that kind of pulled me out of the film a bit. But overall, this is such a unique and different film. You know, it introduced a bunch of much needed diversity into the MCU with going to Wakanda. It's unlike any other film. It's got its own style. The soundtrack is phenomenal. I really like the Oakland tie being around the Bay Area. It's kind of nice, hits close to home, so that's good. Has great characters like Black Panther, and then you have Eric Killmonger, who's one of the best villains in the MCU. Probably a top 5 villain. You know, it's always good when you have villains that you can see their point. You can understand where they're coming from. While you may not agree with them, you can at least understand it. And Killmonger definitely qualifies as that. You can take a look at a single still, one still from this film, and you can say, that's from Black Panther. And that's a telltale sign of a great film. It's unique, it's got its own flair, it's got its own style, and it tells a good story as well. And at number 7 is Avengers Endgame. I know, put your pitchforks down for a second and let me rationalize why it's here. I know this film is considered to be the best MCU film of all time by a lot of people, but this is why I think it's not. First of all, I don't like the time travel aspect to it. I wish they had gone in a different direction. It's passable. I guess they made it work in the narrative, but I wish they had gone somewhere else with it. I also don't like what they did with two of my favorite characters, Thor and Thanos. And the end fight scene really kind of took me out of it because it was just so easy for the heroes. I mean, you never got a sense of danger from them. You never got a sense that they were going to lose. As soon as all the heroes showed up with Doctor Strange and his portals and all that, you knew it was over. And there was no drama. It was just showcasing all these heroes, and it was kind of like Marvel flexing. And I think that was a bit disappointing. I wish it was more of a struggle. And yeah, we lost Iron Man, and that was great. And Steve Rogers is done, and that was great. But I just don't think this film was perfect by any means. It's still a great film. I mean, it's number 7 on my list, for crying out loud. I just don't think it was as exceptional as a lot of people are saying it is. At number 6, we have Iron Man. What can I say? It's the film that started it all. It's a grounded in reality movie, and it's placed squarely in the problems of its day. Tony Stark is captured by terrorists near the beginning of the film and has to design his suit of armor in order to escape. He then struggles with the morality of manufacturing weapons that kill and maim thousands of people worldwide through constant warfare. It's a powerful character shift that he goes through. Furthermore, Robert Downey Jr. made a personal comeback with this film, rebounding from years of substance abuse. So it has a great real-life story as well attached to it. The film has a supremely underrated villain in Obadiah Stane, and it's a real shame he didn't stick around for longer because Jeff Bridges is one hell of an actor. The Big Lebowski, anybody? True Grit? No? Overall, this is an exceptional film, and they couldn't have had a more solid film to launch the MCU off of. Kicking off the top 5, we have Captain America: The Winter Soldier. The consumption of S.H.I.E.L.D. by Hydra. An awesome elevator fight scene. A mysterious villain. And a great performance by Robert Redford. This film seemingly had it all. This is Captain America's best personal film. Civil War is more of an ensemble film. The organization he served with such diligence and duty turned out to be just as evil as the Nazis he fought against in World War II. The first MCU film, directed by the Russos, was a sign of the excellence that was to come from them. They masterfully execute the Bucky and Cap relationship, as well as introduce Falcon and expand on Black Widow's character. This was the first film where Black Widow became an actual character to the MCU, rather than just eye candy for their audience. It was grittier, it was more serious, and it was an entry that the MCU desperately needed. And at number 4, we have Captain America: Civil War. Captain America: Civil War was a film that I just didn't like the first time I saw it. I was very underwhelmed. However, since rewatching it, my opinion has drastically changed. The sheer amount of setup and conflict this film contains is incredible. The juxtapositioning of Cap and Iron Man's ideals is brilliantly executed. You may change sides 15 times throughout the course of the film and still be left uncertain of which hero was right or wrong by the time the credits roll. Additionally, the film introduces us to two major players in the MCU, Black Panther and Spider-Man. Now, these characters aren't fully fleshed out in this film, but it serves as a nice appetizer for what's to come. Civil War is one of the must-watch films in the MCU. It's essential, and it's thought-provoking, and it's a complex film, which is why it lands so high on this list. Starting off the top 3, we have Thor Ragnarok. Okay, I know this one is a bit controversial, but I think Thor Ragnarok saved the character of Thor. Think about it. Was Thor a particularly popular character before this film? Was he an interesting character? Not really. In fact, his 2 solo films are some of the least grossing films in the MCU. Furthermore, he really had no character arc in any of the subsequent films following his debut film. Ragnarok gave him something to do, and more importantly, things to lose. In this film alone, Thor loses his hair, his hammer, his father, some of his closest friends, his evil sister, his eye, and his home. Not just his home either, like his entire planet. We get to see a much different Thor. Does he joke around too much? Sure. Is his shift in character too drastic? Sure. But I honestly don't mind that. This version of Thor is so much better than the one we got in every previous film. You throw in the Hulk, Jeff Goldblum, the groovy space vibe, and you get a film that is a blast, but it's also layered with profound and heavy material. And for our runner-up, we have Guardians of the Galaxy. Chalk this film up as some of the most fun I've ever had while watching a movie. From the awesome soundtrack, to the colorful retro style, to the quirky characters, to the action, to the perfect humor, this film is sensational. Guardians of the Galaxy was a massive risk for the MCU. I mean, raise your hand if you've ever even heard of this group before the movie came out. It's like someone dared Kevin Feige to make a film about some random heroes from the comics that include, mind you, a walking tree that can only say one phrase, and a talking rabbit. Raccoon. And he freaking did it. And he did it perfectly. It's a visual spectacle, and it's our first introduction to this cosmic area of the MCU. I mean, if I want to have a good time, I turn on Guardians of the Galaxy. At the top spot is Infinity War. I absolutely love this film. It's the perfect mixture of fun, intensity, drama, humor, and heartbreak. You know, traditionally in the MCU, and most of film, the good guys win in the end, and we all leave the theater happy that good trumped evil, and all is well in the world. That is not what happened in Infinity War. Like, at all. Thanos snaps away half of our heroes and half of all life. Sure, we knew they were all coming back. Seriously, Marvel, you couldn't even pretend that they wouldn't be coming back? But really, it was a fantastic change of pace to have the villain win for once. And what a villain he was. For all my complaints about Endgame's treatment of Thanos, well, they all stem from how fantastic Infinity War handled him. Thanos is relatable, and we can understand why he does what he does. He's the one with the character arc. He suffers in order to get what he wants. He's not just some mustache-twirling baddie. We also get another brilliant showing from Thor, taking his character redemption even further before Endgame pours it all down the drain.
I heard you were gonna buy...
Anyway, Infinity War was the culmination of over a decade of legwork by the MCU, and in my opinion it stands as the greatest entry of the 22 films. Well, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. This was a lot of work. I hope you enjoyed it. 22 films, and this is all of them ranked. Let me know which film is your favorite and which film is your least favorite, and I will look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Have a great morning, afternoon, night, whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you next time, folks. Bye!